Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Thank you for all joining on the live stream for the POCO X3 online event. We're excited to speak to you guys once again. And I have two amazing tech KOLs to join me today to talk about, what we launched yesterday, the POCO X3 NFC edition. So we have Adam and Tom, and I'm super excited to have them here on board with us. We launched the POCO X3 just last night. In some regions, we are already on sale, and we did send the device to Adam and Tom today, and a couple of days ago, and they've been playing around with it. So yeah, today we're all about talking about the device, and we would like to share some of our thoughts on the device, some of the decisions we've made, and we'd like to hear some official thoughts from Adam and Tom as well. And today we will be giving out a couple of giveaways throughout the stream. And we also have a QR code on top of our screen to make sure that everyone can just scan and get this awesome device. So yeah, let's get started. So Adam and Tom, I hope you guys are doing well today. You can introduce yourself to everyone in the fans.
Well, I'll introduce Adam. He's one of the biggest tech YouTubers in the UK.
Oh, stop it.
I mean, we both shop at the same places, it seems.
Yeah.
I think we've bought the same shirt in different colours.
We had a chat beforehand, made sure we were dressed in the same, but...
I'll go first. I'm Tom, the Tech Chap from the channel The Tech Chap, and I'm obviously very privileged to be here with you guys. Thank you so much, POCO, for having me. And this is such an incredible phone. I can't wait to dive into it.
Yeah, and similarly, my name's Adam. If you don't know me, ASBYT is my YouTube channel, and again, same to sort of mirror Tom. Had been hands-on with the POCO X3 for a couple of days, and it's so exciting for so many reasons, which we'll touch on. But again, the price-wise, $199, I think we marked. I think if you've saw my video that's been out, it's just for what you get is incredible, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's get into it. So I know you guys have been playing around with the device for a couple of days, but I'd like to kind of introduce what the POCO X3 as a product stands for in the market. We launched this, and we've been planning about this project for a couple of months, I think up to 6 months. And we want to enter a market as the market disruptor. And this is the very first X series phone launched by POCO Global. And we want to make sure that when we came in strong, and we brought the POCO spirit back together. And yeah, I want to know what your first impressions are on the phone. And I know some of the fans have questions, which we'll answer on as well. But we'll go through each sections on the performance, battery, camera, and some of the other stuff that the POCO X3 features. So yeah, Adam, you can go first and let me know what your first impressions when you got the POCO X3.
Suppose you've gone with a beautiful one first. Sorry, Tom. I mean, I think we touch on price, but I think what's so exciting is that for me, in terms of specs, you get mid-range to almost flagship in certain areas. And for me, I feel like it's dragging the mid-range sort of devices down to budget prices. And I think so many manufacturers are now going to struggle to really not sell their products, because there's loads of brilliant products, but I think at that price, it's just pretty incredible in terms of that sort of a lot of gaming, which we're going to touch on, is really good on it, and the battery, which we're going to touch on, is remarkable at 5,160, I think it is. And I just think overall, you get such a great package for that really affordable price. And I think, like you said, a disruptor is certainly a word that you could use.
Yeah, I mean, if I can jump in, Adam's completely right about all of that. And I think as YouTubers, there's no nice way of saying it, YouTube creators, whatever you want to call us, we focus too often on like the flagships, the shiny tech at the top. But I'm sure Adam, Angus, you guys watching right now, they're probably not the phones that you are going to go out and buy. Not many people have over £1,000 to spend on a phone or whatever. So really, this is where phones like this are important, and these are the phones that people can actually buy and actually afford. And so while it's fun to look at the flagship stuff, this is like the everyday stuff that you want to be good. And I think, as Adam mentioned, the sort of trickle down technology over the last year or two budget, mid-range phones, affordable phones have got so much better. I think manufacturers are starting to cotton on that that's what people are buying, and they should probably make them good. And I was just astonished when they told me the price of this. When we saw the spec sheet ahead of time, I think Adam and I both thought maybe like 300, 350 pounds or something. But then
it puts it in and around, it puts it in and around that sort of Pixel 4a and the OnePlus Nord, that sort of area, the 350,
absolutely.
400 sort of pounds. And yeah, it's ridiculous.
199, and I've just put together a budget buying guide, which I'll be posting either later today or tomorrow. And this is in it, even if they didn't want me to or ask me to, like this would be awesome. In it front and center anyway. Such incredible value for money.
And just to follow on from that, like Tom was saying about the sort of flagships, that yes, obviously it's lovely to get sent reviewers units of all these amazing products, but we get so many comments. Well, I do personally. I'm sure Tom will agree. We get so many comments saying, "Well, okay, like you said, we've not got £1,000+ to spend." Numerous people, even my friends and family, for example, so many of them are just like, "Well, have you got one for 300, 400 cheaper?" Because I don't have a great amount, especially with the current situation as well. That obviously our thoughts go out to the people who are struggling at the moment with what's going on. Not many people have a massive amount of spare cash just to be throwing around. So the fact that you can get a very, very competent device in a price range which is really, really affordable, I think that's great for the average everyday consumer.
Yes, and that's absolutely our goal. We usually, we do talk about gaming a lot on previous devices on POCO and even on this one. Because we do believe in having that, performance to a certain level that ends up translating into value for money. That was the main goal of the POCO X3, and we want to make sure that we get this message across. And it's overall just our strategy coming back this year as the POCO brand. I know a lot of fans has heard about our POCO brand slogan of everything you need, nothing you don't. And then we also, this time, we kind of actually went into more specific with the mid-range segment of exactly what you need. Talking about that, I would love to, actually show some of the fans who actually haven't seen our device. Adam and Tom both have one. So, this is the actual phone, and this is the X3, and I'm personally using the Shadow Gray edition. And I've been using this for a couple of weeks now, and I've really enjoyed it. And I don't know what you guys think on the color naming and the color itself. We did make some big changes with the logo and the stripe down the middle, and even the camera design. So what were your first impressions on design?
Well, if I can jump in, when we unboxed this yesterday, my first impression, I love what you've done with the back. You've got this, what we call, I think in the UK, a go faster stripe. I get that kind of subconsciously makes you think of gaming and speed, which is absolutely fair enough. But I think that's definitely, it's not a subtle phone. That'll whether you love it or you hate it.
It's eye-catching.
It's eye-catching. People will turn heads if you walk around with that. First impressions, I think it's a great looking phone. It's a pretty big phone, so bear that in mind. That's not something you're talking about. 6.67 inches, I believe. So it's a big phone, but then that's what you want if you are gaming or you're watching videos, and it means they can fit that massive battery in it as well. But I think it's a pretty unique setup with that quad camera lens. I like that they've gone for the round module. You don't see that very often. And this cobalt blue, I really like that. I think this is better looking than the one that Adam has, actually.
I am better looking than you, so maybe that evens itself out. Maybe a little. Hey!
It's not hard.
I'm only joking. You're beautiful. I'm similar to what Tom's saying. It will polarize in terms of the fact that it is a glossy back. There are some people that prefer frosted backs, for example. So in terms of keeping it clean, is not ideal, but of course, most people will carry cases, skins, etc. anyway. And when it is clean, it does look pretty racy, like Tom said. And I do like I know I spoke to you a couple of days ago, and you were on about the fact that the logo is a lot larger than it possibly usually is. and I actually quite like it. Usually I find big logos a little bit garish, as I said, I think in the video the other day, but I think it looks quite nice with that stripe as well, and it does actually, you can't really see it on here, but on my video I do actually manage to get a shot which showcases there's actually a few little rainbow colours.
I saw that. It was actually really nice.
So that's it's quite a cool little addition there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think on design, we, in our launch yesterday, we spoke about exactly the design you need. And we were fitting in the features into the slogan because this is what inspired us from the POCO team. And we wanted to make sure that, the design we make for this phone really stands out. I think that we can come to agreement that some of these phones on the market, it's very crowded. First off, the market is very crowded. And we want to make sure that we did have a design that once people spot it, they'll know it's from POCO. So we first enlarged the logo and we called it the standout chroma design. And then we put a finish line design. So it was exactly a design that we think that our fans wanted or need. So yeah, I personally, when I first saw this, I thought it was
sorry,
really
if I can jump in, Angus, I appreciate you've gone with a small central hole punch as well. That's my preferred place to put it. So if you're watching videos, it's actually because of the taller screen. So you might be watching, I don't know, your favorite tech YouTuber, whoever it may be, maybe that guy, maybe someone else.
Got the wrong channel there.
I spelled ASBYT wrong, but no, it's obviously got super thin bezels, which is not something you always get on a more affordable phone. So it's just a nice big screen for gaming or whatever it is you do on your phone.
Yeah. Again, we'll touch on gaming, the gaming aspect and the chipset, etc. But yeah, of course, if you're going to be using it for gaming, for example, you're going to need, most people want a large screen so you can see everything. And we'll touch on the high refresh rate and touch sampling rate as well, which is a massive thing. Again, at the price, I probably said it's $199 about 7 times.
We get it, Adam. It's cheap.
We get it.
Stop banging on.
But the thing is, you are getting that 120 hertz refresh rate, which has been banded around the big trend of the last year or so. And some of those phones cost £1,400, £1,300. It's
We've not really talked about that yet, have we? I mean, we're talking about the size of this and blah blah blah. But yes, how many phones for £200 give you a 120 hertz?
We get it. It's $199, Tom.
It's just exactly what you need, Adam. Exactly what you need. But also the 240 hertz. Sorry, I can't even speak. The 240 hertz. Still can't speak. Hertz touch sampling. And if you're not familiar with what that means, because it's kind of a spec that's put on those feature sheets, it basically is how long it takes for your input from your finger to pressing the trigger or the button on the phone to then it responding. It's kind of like the input lag a little bit on a screen, on a monitor or TV. So you've got the faster, more regular refreshing of the screen at 120 times per second, and then you've got 240 times per second this touch sampling. So it means it's instant responsive. So if you are playing Call of Duty and losing, like I normally am, it means you have zero excuse. It's just you're terrible.
I think
I've only had a couple of days with it, but I have noticed that straight away, especially for gaming. That the fact that it is fairly instantaneous when you're sort of deciding what you want to be doing, and like Tom says, it gives you no excuse then.
Yeah, well, I mean, since we talked about how good it looks and the design of the X3, we can actually, dive into the actual performance. Before we actually dive in, I do want to remind all the fans who are watching right now, you can scan the QR code and get this beautiful device. But you can also wait and listen about the performance, and we'll get started right now. So
wait, Angus, how many phones are we giving away during this live stream?
We're going to give away a total of 6 phones, and 3 phones will actually be during just, at our comment on the live stream for hashtag exactly what you need plus hashtag POCO X3. And then we'll have a Q&A session that will actually give out the other 3 phones throughout the stream.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Great to hear from the guys at home as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to, I know we launched a new platform recently with Qualcomm, and we called it the Snapdragon 732G. And it is the latest 4G processor in the 700 series that's actually best performing compared to the likes of Snapdragon 720G and 730G. We saw this as a good opportunity. Qualcomm and at POCO, we were very excited to launch this phone. And we really felt that, with the performance, we could offer a good enough performance for great gaming and just everyday usage. So yeah, I would like to know, you guys talked about earlier that you guys were gaming on it and also trying out the display and the gaming experience. But I believe the Qualcomm 732G, it's the brains of the phone, right? So I'd like to know what your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of where it sits, obviously it's not, an 800 series chip. It's not going to be the best that you can possibly get. But
Yeah.
it definitely, like you compared it to the 730G, which has been an incredibly popular chipset in the mid-range area even. And again, we're talking almost budget with price here. It's been pretty great in terms of my use in those gaming sessions. And I've also noticed it hasn't been too hot either, and I know we'll touch on liquid cooling, etc.
Yes,
but I definitely didn't notice that the temperature ramping up, which does happen on certain other smartphones.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my experience, so I think the benchmark suggests the 732G is about 15% faster than the 730G in the graphics department. So it's sort of upper mid-range, but I hate to keep plugging it, but it's exactly what you need because I've played Asphalt 9, Call of Duty Mobile, Armor Mobile Ops I'm actually getting into at the moment, and it's pretty flawless throughout. Sometimes it drops the default graphic settings to like maybe a high rather than a very high, but honestly it's not something you notice, and you're still getting the high frame rate because that's obviously super important. You're going to have to get that high FPS to see the high refresh. But no, I've loved gaming on this, and crucially, as Adam touched on, it stays cool. And that I did a certain phone versus a certain phone with two different chipset video the other day, and it just showed the difference that the chip can make, and also the cooling, and then what that can do to throttling and performance, especially if you're playing a game for half an hour or an hour. It's not just like 5 minutes. If you're playing PUBG for an hour, you're not going to want this to burn your hand or just kill the battery because it's had to throttle and it's just not doing well. So I think POCO have thought of everything with this.
And sorry to jump in. I was just going to kind of run along that in terms of we're going to touch on so many of the great features, but there are obviously some things that can be improved, like we've said. But I think as an overall package, when you're talking about the chipset, when you're talking about the high refresh rate, touch sampling rate, the as Tom said, the liquid cooling system, which tends to reduce the need to thermal throttle. I think as an overall package, it serves the majority of people absolutely fantastically.
Yeah, I think the whole thought process behind us at POCO team here is that we had a lot of tough times trying to debate if this was the right chip to use. But we actually thought that with the 732G, and it has an 8-core structure and an 8-nanometer process, it's power efficient enough for daily usage and for a bit of gaming. Because the GPU was also part of the Elite Gaming series by Qualcomm, we thought that it could provide great gaming performance. But not only that, I think we've always put liquid cooled technology a part of our heritage here at POCO. So we knew that when you were gaming for, like Adam and Tom said, for an hour or 2 hours straight gaming on your phone, sooner or later your phone heats up and it will throttle the performance, drain the battery. So we improved massively on our liquid cooled technology 1.0 that was directly inspired from our POCO F1. This time we actually improved it by increasing the heat pipe size by 70%. Which allows more heat to be taken in. And we kind of also use the mid-frame structure so we can actually take multi-layer of graphites behind the screen or behind the battery. So then, that's just more heating protection. So actually we do boast ourselves at sustained peak performance at all times. I think that has always been a main focus on us, rather than going for a very, very high benchmark score or playing on high settings where you can only do it for 20 minutes or so. We want to give you a smooth game experience and just very long, but still very enjoyable experience. So yeah, I think that would be giving us exactly the performance you need or the fans need. I've been playing myself. I game too much, and I've been playing a lot on
Put the phone down,
well.
Angus.
I know it's bad, man. It's bad. But I actually really enjoy it. I've used flagship phones. I think, I'm not going to say I never use flagship phones, but I've used a lot of flagship phones in the past. And I feel like with the price tag in mind, like Adam and Tom always remind us, this phone is honestly, like, it blew my mind as well. And I've been out here at the start of the project, and it just blows my mind.
And we get stereo speakers. Not extra there.
Yes.
And
absolutely. I mean, and there's some couple of jack. Gaming features. Yes.
Yeah.
Which will please. It's still there are many people in the world that in fact me and Tom talked about this the other day. Not everyone has £200 to spend on a pair of wireless earphones, so yes. It is still important there is still a huge market for a headphone jack, and yes, we are seeing more and more it disappearing, but there are a lot of people that will continue to buy phones that have a headphone jack, and almost in the comment section that would vindicate this out of point of principle sometimes.
Yeah, and let us know in the comments actually if you guys still want phone companies to hang on to it, or you're happy to transition now, because I know they're listening to your feedback as well as ours, so that'll be interesting to hear if actually you use it, the headphone jack.
I mean, there are certain features that we thought that by putting into X3, not only it enhances your daily experience, we also want to make sure that it enhances your gaming experience. So we did put in dual stereo speakers. So I mean, everyone has that scenario where when you play for too long or you're watching a video too long, you're wearing earbuds, especially headphone jack plugged in, you want to take it out and still have an immersive experience. So that's actually kind of the pain point we're kind of going for. It wasn't just like, oh, we can just stuff it in. We actually, every single features we actually thought out. And then we also have a great haptic. So I was wondering, how do you guys feel on the haptics, since you guys are playing, Call of Duty, even texting maybe?
My impression, I didn't think about it, which is a good sign, because if you are thinking about it, I think it's distracting from the experience, and there's something either amazing or very wrong with it. So it felt good. Good haptic.
Yeah, similarly, I remember noticing it once when I was playing. And it's only because obviously I was going through all the video and looking at the specs and everything, so it is something that was on my mind. But I just noticed it felt really solid, and often with cheaper phones or worse quality in terms of the haptic feedbacks, it can feel a little bit rattly, a little bit shaky, like it's just not a nice feeling. And
exactly,
like I said, I think solid is probably the word I would use for it.
Cool. I think we talked a lot about performance, and we can get in actually the screen. But before I do that, I would actually like to remind everyone it is time for our first giveaway. So please hashtag us at exactly what you need, and hashtag POCO X3 in the comments below.
Can we win?
Don't be greedy now, guys. Come on. I think
2 hands.
We will announce the winners very soon after the stream as well. Let's move on. On display, I know we mentioned earlier 120 hertz, 240 hertz touch sampling rate, but I would like to explain here what our decision is. I think a lot of fans may have already asked on Adam's channel after his review video, why is it not AMOLED? Why is it not LCD? Why is it LCD? And actually, I think our price answers like 80% of that question. And it's also because if we did AMOLED, I feel like we won't be able to achieve that aggressive pricing. We also took a lot of surveys and a lot of research based on the past comments by our fans to really understand what were they asking for. And we feel like because 120 hertz or high refresh rate was the trend of smartphone in 2020, that was our number one priority for display. And then we obviously took a look at a greater scale on touch sampling rate, which I think a lot of people don't understand touch sampling rate and how important it is. But for gamers, I think it's massively important. It makes gaming so much more, professional in a way. Like you get a small advantage just because of the hardware. So I'd like to know I know this is the first thing you guys saw, so 120 hertz. I'd like to guys know the feedback on the screen and your experience on gaming in general.
Well, to jump in just quick, I mean, I think we would have all preferred AMOLED. I mean, there's nothing. We're not here saying this is the best phone in the entire world and everyone else should throw their phones in the bin. It's a phone for a price point that works for a lot of people. It does what you need. So yes, AMOLED maybe would be nicer, but I mean, I've reviewed a lot of phones, and I think unless you're watching maybe movies or videos in a dark room and you're really looking at those blacks, in everyday use, it's actually, I think you'd struggle to tell the difference between the two of them. And if it lets you I'd rather have a 120 hertz screen than a 60 LCD than a 60 hertz AMOLED, because you just see it and experience it more often. So I'm really happy with your choice, actually. And keeping it at that price is just so important.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's along the similar lines. You basically, everything you just said was what I was going to say. But for me, I think if you like you said, if you had made this phone with an AMOLED display, which yes, of course, in an ideal world, you would have it in there. The price would obviously hike with that. But the phone was 60 hertz refresh rate. I think you would have got a lot of comments saying, you know, what about all the other phones that do 90, 120, 144? You know, so you'd still have that area of the market, or
you can't win,
customer that which you can't win.
Yeah.
And I know we harp back all the time with this situation, but this phone is never going to be perfect, because at 199 it can't possibly be. There are corners that have to be cut, and it is just the case that LCD is the way to go for that reason. But again, with the 120, it's similar to with the resolution as well. You know, you're not going to get 4K or Quad HD in a phone in this area of the market, really, and 120 hertz and AMOLED. It's simply impossible. Otherwise, you know, the company would go out of business. So it's about building the right package, I think. And again, we touched on the battery being so big. And that's another sort of potential con with that, is the fact that it is a larger phone. But you do want that bigger battery, so it's not going to necessarily look the cleanest in the hand, and that's why some companies decide to have a smaller battery to make it look a bit more minimalistic. But you don't get that power user big battery, so I would again prefer the bigger battery, and it's a similar thing with the LCD and the high refresh rate, I think.
Cool. Yeah. I think, you know, for us, we want to take an overall look at the whole package. And, you know, we're definitely not saying this is the best phone in the market. We believe it's a great device for the price, and even for a bit above the price, right? I think all of the functions we put in is exactly what the fans need, or what we believe that they wanted in our next line of phones. So yeah, I think I
may have jumped ahead early talking about the display. I mean, so I've ruined your slides, Angus. I'm sorry.
To be fair, I just went and talked for about 5 minutes. So
it's true. I actually fell asleep briefly when Adam was talking.
I'm not surprised.
I think
you need to just cut me off.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think we're having fun with this, and I think for, you know, when we talked about, you know, power conservation on, you know, the display, we did put in something really cool called adaptive sync into our POCO X3. So actually, I explained how it works yesterday. So if the fans didn't watch the launch, I can explain it again. So actually, for our dynamic switch, we make sure that, you know, not all content we watch, right? It's actually 120 hertz compatible. So dynamic switch, you can actually it'll detect what content you're watching and automatically drop the hertz down. So that's something that I thought was really awesome, that's done by our product team. And, you know, we thought that something smart like this would really help the small differences that it makes for power consumption, even if we put in a massive battery. So yeah, I mean,
yes.
What do you guys think?
Sorry, I don't know if you're handing that to us there.
I think we can move on to battery, actually.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it. Maybe I was one step ahead of the game. I went on to battery. Maybe we go from there. This
is what I'm actually most excited about, because you can have the best phone in the world, but if if it doesn't last you a full day and you have to ration it, I think crucially, if you have to like think about whether is it going to get me to the end of the day if I play half an hour of Call of Duty now, then it ruins the experience. So cramming in a 5160 million power battery into this is crazy. I mean, it's an easy 2-day use depending on how you use it, but if you just want to go crazy with gaming, then you're going to probably get half a day as well from it. So for me, I think battery life is probably number one, or joint number one, most important factor for me. So having a big one's important.
Excuse me?
I've heard that. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I similarly, I mean, it's a difficult one in terms of what's the number one priority in a phone, because so many people have their own opinions on that. What's right for you might not be right for somebody else. But like you said, Tom, because there's been such a big leap in charging technology, for example, and being able to plug it in for half an hour and it be halfway there or whatever. But it's still not ideal. I would still personally prefer to get up in the morning, take it off charge, go have my day, and then come back and go to sleep at 2 a.m. because the kids are up crying or whatever. Then I want to know that it's going to last me that long, and I don't have to find or take a charger with me or a portable charger or all that sort of stuff, halfway through the day, because I've have countless phones that I've tested over the last couple of years that are amazing in so many areas. But as Tom said, what's the point in having an amazing camera, an amazing display, if the phone's off?
Angus, can I ask you, how do you, or maybe if you can talk from the company's perspective, how do you decide what size battery can go in the phone? I appreciate it's laws of physics and what will fit in there, and you want to cram the biggest one, but we see such variation between different phones, even similar size phones. So can you just give me some idea? I'm genuinely interested of how you come up with the size of battery you put in it.
I mean, first we are using a 6.67-inch screen, so that actually gave us a lot of room. And actually, because of our mid-frame design, we were able to actually stuff in a lot more technology than we usually can. I think that this decision factor on battery is actually based on what we believe our users are doing on a daily basis. So if they're gaming a lot, or they're watching content, or they're video streaming a lot, I think it's a no-brainer choice by us to kind of just throw in a huge battery. We try to, it's not like we have a B, C, D, and then we pick one. It was just like, let's just give them the biggest. That is the automatic choice. If we can do it, we do it, right? Because I think a lot of people need to understand that we don't actually, we go extreme on very certain aspects, but at the overall picture, we want to make sure that overall experience of the POCO X3 can really meet your needs. If one part really falls down, I think it's not the best device we can push out as a company. So we really focus on that.
No, sorry, Adam.
Just to ask you another question.
Go ahead.
It's along the same lines, but it's just a case of, do you think it's an aesthetic thing from certain companies then that limits battery capacity in terms of not making the phone too thick? Because if you can get, a headphone jack, a quad camera, this massive battery in a similar size display to a lot of, of the phones at the moment, why do you think that is the case?
I definitely do believe that's a huge factor. As you can see, like flagship level phones usually they've been going up. I have to say all the companies are making their phones and they're putting bigger batteries inside. But I feel like the design, obviously the thickness of their phone is definitely a huge factor. But I think for us, it's another reason why I would like to kind of mention, if we go back to design, why we choose a plastic back is because we're able to, it can take a scratch or there, and you actually don't have to use a case with it. That's the really pain point that we thought when we actually use a plastic bag, and you get to use a bigger battery. So, if you were buying a $1,400 phone, I assume everyone will put a case on it, because it's expensive. It's, if you drop it, your heart is going to break. And
by then it's the same sort of size.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Your wallet will literally break if you drop that phone. So I feel like there's a lot of choices we made, and we want to make sure that some people say it's a compromise, not using a glass back, but I think there's pros and cons to it. But at this price point, I believe that we want to have not only beautifully designed, but also a rugged phone with good usability of the battery as well.
I mean, we touched on design before, but I mean, like the POCO F1, for example, that was a plastic back, but I do think this looks, a little bit more premium. So yeah, they've done a good job with that.
Thank you very much. I think I have to thank my product team very much. I think they did a brilliant job.
I thought you did everything, Angus. I thought you went.
I thought you were the go-to.
I wish I did. All I do is leak. That's all I do. I have PR and social POCO Global constantly on me, but we will do our best for every single device. I do believe we have the next giveaway coming up by Tom. So, Tom, would you like to say something?
I would. Let me just look at my notes, which are definitely not off the screen here.
Remember.
So yeah, giveaway. All you have to do is use the hashtags, exactly what you need. You can scan a QR code. And yeah, I think there's a few of these to give away. I've also got a couple to give away myself as well. I know Adam does as well. So head on over to our respective, I was going to say tweet accounts, right? Twitter accounts, and do the things that we say in the tweets. Really, really nice and simple. It's awesome that POCO's giving away so many of these phones. I guess because they're cheap, they can't. No, I'm joking. It's actually very, very generous of them. So yeah, now's a good time to scan the QR code, use the hashtag exactly what you need, and check out POCO Global Twitter page as well to find out all the details. I think that's what I was supposed to say.
Yes,
it's along those lines.
Yeah, but talking about battery, right? We can finish up with. We did put a 33-watt fast charging into this device. And we also included a 32-watt inbox charger. So it does charge up really quickly. And we do have, I charge this up and I haven't actually had the need to charge up midday, but I do charge it up at night before I go to sleep. And it does charge up just really quickly, just within an hour and 10 minutes for sure. And I think that's for me personally, I think that's pretty amazing because it is a big battery. I don't know if you guys have done any charging tests yourself.
I've not needed to.
No, I personally haven't. I mean, sorry to use the cliche again, but it is kind of exactly what you need because if you've got a battery that size, you don't necessarily need to charge it midday. And so even a slow charger, for example, would be fine overnight. But you get the bonus of having a fast charger in there at 33 watts. Yes, it's not 60, 100 or whatever that you can get. But again, for the sake of 10 minutes here or there, it's probably not necessary for this sort of, area.
If I may, though, can we talk about the camera a little bit as well as the battery? Because I think we've all agreed that the battery is awesome, but the camera, I think, is probably equally important to the batteries, depending on what you want in a phone, of course, and everyone's opinion is different, as Adam said. So Angus, I'm kind of curious, as just from, again, a manufacturing and design point of view, how do you, first of all, how do you pick what lenses to go with? And also, what made you go with this quite unique looking design? Is that a hexagon? No, it's a circular square.
Definitely not a hexagon.
It's a square core.
From a design perspective, we really wanted to do something that has not been seen in the market. I think I'll tell you what the design is actually inspired from. It's actually inspired from DSLRs, cameras. So they're very classy looking and there's actually very industry feel. I think that's where our design team got their inspiration from. When it comes to camera, I mean, we didn't actually specifically want to pick out a specific lens ourselves, or myself at least, but we did make sure that, look, I think in the year of 2020, a lot of phones have been doing quad cameras. And our whole theme is to kind of just offer everyone, when it comes to the camera, of, not the best of quality. I will say this right now to all of our fans out there. But at POCO, we put performance first, but our camera is definitely not a bad option as well. But we wanted to make sure we cover all the ranges. So giving you a 64 megapixel main sensor with Sony IMX682, and then a 119-degree ultra-wide angle camera, and then a depth sensor and a macro camera. We do believe that this is kind of the standard setup. It's not the best. We won't boast we're the best, but we are a performance-driven phone. But we did add a lot of fun features into our camera, including some cool photo filters. I don't know if you guys had a chance to try, but my personal favorite one is definitely cyberpunk mode. And I've actually seen some of the fans comment on Twitter saying like, that's awesome. We also improved some of the existing features like AI skyscaping. And there's actually just a bunch of modes on camera to explore. And we made sure that this was a set of specific lens that could actually do a lot of features. And that was the main point of choosing this.
Yeah, I think I touched on it in my video. It kind of offers multiple different situations that people can play around with. It doesn't necessarily do anything to the best in the market, but again you've got to see where it sits. But for standard photos, for example, I was getting some really nice shots, even some selfies and stuff, which I'm sure I'll be posting on Twitter later.
Please don't.
Nice.
And I'll be tagging you, Tom, because you love them. But you can get some really nice shots. Just another question. We're in a market now where every new year we get an extra lens popped on the back of a phone. Is this a trend that you feel is gonna continue to go through, where the back, because people make the joke meme where there's 10 camera lenses on the back and then you talk about the phone afterwards, but do you think that's going to continue, or do you think some companies might start to dial it back a little bit? Because I think I mentioned I'd love to see a slight development, maybe more in the software side of things, in terms of speeding up the shutter lag and things like that. Do you think that might be an issue or a target for companies like yourself?
That's a hard question, actually. I think in the last few years we did see like pop-up cameras or cameras on the back increasing in numbers, right? I think a lot of companies are actually focusing on the main sensor. I think that's always been the number one focus, and I think that's okay. I think for POCO, this kind of goes back to our brand philosophy of what we see ourselves as. If we had to put ourselves as a job, like what's our job in the tech world, we actually, personally, I tell my team, and our team knows themselves as the curators. So we curate technology that's already existing in the market, and we make sure what we bring is exactly what the fans want or the fans need. But I do think that the trend is to stuff as many lenses as possible. But I think for us, we do want to focus more so on the quality of the lens once we get to different segments of the lines we push out, and then we'll focus on what are the options, because I spoke to many fans, and they did say, oh, I don't really use macro camera or portrait mode. But personally, when I was trying out with the macro lens, it's just actually a really fun mode. I think people don't give it a chance just because it's 2 megapixel, or from many phones around the companies in the industry, they have a 2 megapixel macro camera. But I think it's more of the option coming from us to give you that option to play around with, rather than take a professional photography. But yeah, I think if our fans are enjoying.
I was just going to say, I suppose with that company motto, you can possibly save in areas such as research, etc., and then you can be far more aggressive on that overall price, and that way you're going to give your loyal customers kind of what they're looking for, and you can do it in a way that's not going to burn the wallet, I suppose.
Yeah, and I appreciate, I'm not that bothered about a depth sensor or a macro lens, but I do like the fact that you put an ultra wide on there.
Yeah, ultra wide and the primary for me.
The primary 64 megapixel and then the ultra wide, I think they're the two core ones that I look for. And
yes,
obviously there's competitors out there like the Pixel that does fantastic photo quality, but as good as that is, the lack of an ultra wide is so infuriating. So while this isn't necessarily the best photo quality in the whole world, you do have the versatility.
Cool. Thank you both for actually the amazing comments. We actually didn't expect our camera to actually do so well.
There's
I
no
think you
camera that
found
can
that with
make
the
Adam
POCO
look good.
F1 though as well, didn't you? You weren't expecting the F1 to be, and it was
yeah,
still
that's
pretty
the same
successful.
story with POCO F1. I think we've won many choices from influencers saying that our camera is great, but I do want to emphasize it's not that we don't care about camera. It's always been performance driven first. I think camera is an area we will constantly keep improving, but we want to focus on performance, and that's always been, you know, a big part of us. I do believe it's another time to remind all of our fans, you know, you can actually get this device and scan the QR code and get it now for the price of, you know, Adam and Tom always say, $199. Ridiculously priced. $199.
99. Yeah, I've heard that.
I do believe Adam has something to say right now.
Oh, do I? Have I got another potential giveaway?
Come on, Adam. Come on.
What? Absolutely.
I've got a giveaway. As the guys have been saying, thing is, I'm so wrapped up in this wonderful, you know, conversation. I'm not even looking at any notes or anything that I've made. Obviously we've touched on how many giveaways we've got going on today, as well as the Twitter ones that we've both got going, me and Tom. Again, if you go to, you can comment on this stream and just put in hashtag exactly what you need and POCO X3 for your chance to win. I think that was that correct, Angus?
Absolutely. Everyone should sign up, you know, eagerly. We only have a few devices today to give out, and this was, you know, the Adams giveaway. But yeah, I think we mentioned everything. I would like to go through for some of the fans who are still watching the stream that actually our availability for POCO started today on the September 8th, and there will be early bird pricing all the way to the 11th, especially on these platforms. So please do check it out if you see these platforms as your local regions. Now, the channel availability may vary between markets, so make sure that you check it out, and the price will be there for different markets. And we actually have more. We actually have more coming later on this month on many more platforms. So we want to make sure everyone can get access to the POCO X3 and have a chance to actually buy one. So please do check it out, and we would love for our fans to give us a chance and, you know, get your X3 because it's exactly what you need. Now we are moving on to the Q&A session, and before that, I actually want to ask Adam and Tom, because they're professionals on the field, especially with tech, consumer tech. I do want to hear, you know, what are your thoughts and your advice for us at POCO going forward?
If I jump in first, I think in terms of the phone as a whole, I think I've said already, it ticks a lot of boxes. And
sorry about that.
I do lots of different videos on phones, and they can range in pricing. But the amount of times I get asked the question, what is, you know, the best phone for 200, under 200, under 300, you know, because there are so many people that this pricing is attractive for obvious reasons, that it's such an important area in the market, and there are so many good features about this that you can kind of almost not forget some of the negatives, but certainly there's enough positives in here for it to be right up there and competing with some of the best, you know, even big branded phones. You know, we're talking, you know, the big mega stars in terms of turnover, etc.
Yeah.
For you know, a fairly new company like yourselves, I think you've done a remarkable job. Battery obviously is being number one. Primary camera, even though it wasn't your main aim, is decent. I know I've just taken Tom's one probably, but yeah, there are certain, and of course it's a new chipset as well, which is really exciting to see how that, you know, I think it's the next one up from the 730G, which was also a very popular chipset at this even more expensive price.
Well, Adam's just said every single point.
Said everything.
In the whole world, so I'm just going to sign off there.
I've not finished actually. I've got another couple.
I bet you do.
Joking.
So we talked about this the other day, Adam. You can buy a flagship phone for crazy money, and that's great. But what you could also do is buy one of these or something like this every couple of years, and you could probably buy 5 of these, you know, every few years, 5 times for the price of one flagship right now. So while you may be getting mid-range, upper mid-range specs, you can keep replacing it for the same price as in one current flagship. So there's different ways of looking at value for money, but I think what it comes down to is people have a budget. you can either spend X amount, or your mum or your dad can say you can buy a phone, but it has to be under this amount. And so you're probably doing a ton of research. And this is the best bit, when it comes to building a PC or buying a phone, or for me, I think anything tech related, it's actually the process of deciding what you want and getting like the most you can for your money, being smart about it. That's like really satisfying, almost more so than like actually using it. So for me, I think there's some really great mid-range phones out there, and there's from huge brands, your Samsungs and your whatever else. But I think, and hopefully people are starting to realize that there are better value options from great brands like POCO. And actually, if you do your research and you do look into something like, sorry, there's a cat trying to climb on me at this.
No,
it's not even your cat either.
It's not even my cat. He's not camera trained, so it's fine. But if throw me,
I'll jump in if you want.
No, but
I mean, I was gonna.
Go for it.
I was just going to jump in because it was a similar sort of thing. Is the fact that you were talking about, people look to buy a flagship phone, for example, that's going to last them 3 years, for example, 4 years. Some people, so they buy hoping that it's got all the features packed in now for the longevity, for the long haul. But if you wanted to buy, because as an example, it's not 5G, but I don't really. Personally, as good as I think the how exciting 5G can be for us, I don't necessarily think it's ready for everybody. For a lot of people, for most people even, it's not essential right now. So if people are spending an extra £500 or whatever on a flagship phone that's got that sort of feature, for example, well, in a year's time you can buy the next POCO, for example, if it's a similar sort of priced phone, and it might have 5G then, and 2 years time it'll have all the latest features. So I don't think with this sort of product, you don't have to constantly think about the long term, and you can just buy for what suits you right now at an affordable price.
And you know what, if you do break it, despite the plastic screen, if something does go wrong, it does get stolen. There's all these things that we don't normally talk about as tech reviewers, because we just look at the spec sheet and does it have a Snapdragon 865 and what's the frame rate. But there's these real world issues about, can someone replace this phone easily if it gets stolen or broken or fixed, that doesn't cost an absolute fortune. So in terms of actual usability, or a phone that you'd recommend to your mum, your dad, your friend, or your brother or something, this ticks a lot of boxes, more so than a super fancy, very fragile, glass-backed £1,000 flagship that maybe you can hang on to for 5 years, but by that time we'll be out of date anyway.
Yeah, and we're not saying that those sorts of phones aren't right for some people, because some people do have a lot of money. Some people do want the best currently there is right now, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
But there are an awful lot of people that simply don't have that sort of funds and are far more happy and feel far less guilty spending a couple of £100 on a phone.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the X3 we are going to. We're trying to disrupt the mid-range market, and I have to address this. I promise my fans or the people who are tweeting that we will talk about what I meant when I said about the OnePlus Nord that's recently launched. Now, we talked a lot about today's specs, and we talked a lot about the processor, the camera, liquid cool, and the price justifies everything. And that's what I was trying to. I didn't expect myself not to be able to explain that, because the price wasn't, leaked. And after now's launch, I want to tell fans that what I meant with OnePlus is in the segment comparison rather than a head-on. I think with YouTube influencers who gets their hands on a POCO X3 NFC edition, they would put us against the OnePlus Nord, because it's more of who has a better value for money in the mid-range segment. And that's what I kind of meant. And I just want to throw that out there. But we do have a Q&A session, which means that earlier on today on my Twitter, I did pick out 3 questions. So the 3 people who have asked these questions that we picked will be awarded with a brand new POCO X3. I would like to read it out, the questions. And, there's some questions that probably only I can answer, but I'd love to know what Tom and Adam can jump in as well anytime and just think. So the first question is actually, what is the meaning of POCO, and how does POCO manage to give such great specs at a low price?
Well, I'll field this one.
Come on, Tom, you do that.
Yeah,
you do that.
I think the meaning of POCO is that we we are in a transforming stage where we want to bring a disruptor in every single market, every single segment in different phones. I believe Tom and Adam will agree that the X3 is a pretty solid first step by us right now. And I mean, we managed to give great aggressive pricing is because I just beg our product team. I said we have to be aggressive. I think at POCO, we need to make sure that we price it right in order to give our mission statement, it's not just a dream. It's not just something we can achieve. We want to make it happen for every single product. So the second question is, what are the upgrades made to liquid cooled technology 1.0 plus in comparison to 1.0? I did mention earlier for 1.0, we did have it on the POCO F1. And for 1.0 plus, we did improve the size of the actual heat pipe and we changed the structure. So without liquid cooled technology and with liquid cooled technology 1.0 plus, the CPU is actually 6 degrees cooler. And I think Adam and Tom, you agree that, gaming on the POCO X3, the phone heats up a lot less and maybe perform better on the long term. I don't know if you guys had a whole lot of hours to test that out, but that was what we're trying to go for. I think liquid cool is very important and we'll continue to work to make it even better.
Yeah, I mean, I've not had a massive amount of time, obviously, to have long sessions on it. But as I said earlier, in the time that I did game on it, I didn't really notice much change in temperature. And obviously, there'll be people out there that can go into, take the phones apart and stuff like that, and they can let you know for sure what's going on down there. But at the same time, for the average everyday consumer, which is what I would be using it for, I wouldn't spend 3 days on it, or whatever, but in the time I've used it, it's been fine. So
awesome.
May that continue.
Really glad you enjoyed it. Our last question, it is a question that will lead into a bigger discussion. So it's like, can we expect a mid-range 5G phone in the future to compete with Nord? Now, fans, I know I always leak for you guys. All I can say is, first, we are making massive plans in the future as a brand in POCO, and we will be launching a lot more devices. I think I will say this, maybe to get Tom and Adam a bit more excited. I know it's, second half of the year, but at POCO, we're actually not done this year. So we do have more. And then
go on, what is it?
I would like to
tell us.
You've got it under the camera.
I can't say exactly the details.
Go on, lift the phone up. Come on.
Sorry, I don't have it. But yes, I do want to, thank Tom and Adam for joining us today on the stream. And I want to remind everyone, you can scan and buy the POCO X3 right now on AliExpress. And in the upcoming weeks, there will be many, many channels available. So stay tuned with your local POCO social media accounts officially and the POCO Global social media account as well. We'll do a lot and make sure that we get the POCO X3 to you. So just want to end. I want to really thank Adam and Tom to join me today. It is my first live stream ever. Yeah, and I had a blast chatting with these two chaps, and I'm really glad you guys both enjoyed your phone. And I want to thank all the fans who's tuned in. It's been a long couple of months, and I know you guys have been waiting, but we're doing our absolute best to bring the best products for you at a very aggressive pricing, and we'll continue to do that so for the future as well.
And we wouldn't be here.
Thank you all.
We wouldn't be here if we didn't believe in the product. We genuinely wouldn't. So,
well, you would. I mean, I have more integrity.
Well, I'd do anything for money. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
it's been a pleasure. Massive thanks to everyone for watching and obviously the invite to be here as well. It's been surreal and good.
Good luck.
Yeah, we'll chat soon.
Yeah.
Make sure you stay tuned for the giveaway winner announcements. I'm not quite sure how that's going to happen in terms of. I'm sure we'll have a chat, but lots to give away.
And subscribe to the Tech Chat. Not to worry about ASBYT. It's not really a big channel. Just POCO and Tech Chat.
Yeah, that's fine.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, have a good day and stay safe, of course. And we'll see you very soon.
Thank you.
See you later.
While the world is focused on chasing the latest and the flashiest, We pace ourselves so we can dive deep in what really matters. We hold firm to our beliefs and refuse to be swayed. We curate the technology to enable your daily experience with the raw power necessary to be effortless and smooth. We surpass ourselves every day, showing our passion, perseverance, and potential to the world. This is POCO, focusing on innovations that truly matter. POCO. the world is focused on chasing the latest and the flashiest, we pace ourselves so we can dive deep in what really matters. We hold firm to our beliefs and refuse to be swayed. We curate the technology to enable your daily experience with the raw power necessary to be effortless and smooth. We surpass ourselves every day, showing our passion, perseverance, and potential to the world. This is POCO, focusing on innovations that truly matter.
POCO.
world is focused on chasing the latest and the flashiest, we pace ourselves so we can dive deep in what really matters. We hold firm to our beliefs and refuse to be swayed. We curate the technology to enable your daily experience with the raw power necessary to be effortless and smooth. We surpass ourselves every day, showing our passion, perseverance, and potential to the world. This is POCO, focusing on innovations that truly matter.
POCO.